I just got out of watching Birds of Prey, and I really enjoyed that. If you've seen my Sonic review, Sonic was a fairly average film. I'll be honest. This one was a pretty big step up for DC. I think I really enjoyed the hell out of it. There wasn't a moment in this movie where I wasn't engaged and I wasn't I was laughing or something. I think Sonic was probably more emotional. But Sonic was deliberately pulling on those heartstrings. This one, it's full of humor. It's full of dark humor. It's full of sarcasm. It's just full of good character beats. And this is it. This is a very much a character-driven film. Specifically Harley Quinn. Where do I begin? I want to go watch this again. I really had a good time watching this. All those crying internet man children who say, "No one turns out the cinemas." The cinema's about half full, and this is a Tuesday, 2 weeks after it's been released. There was a lot of couples and, probably people in their 30s. I think I was probably the oldest person in there. I wasn't the only sad loner, though, so that's kind of gratifying. It's an R-rated film. This is not a film for families, so you're gonna lose a significant chunk of audience. But here's the thing: I'm gonna give you a little bit of context from me. I was collecting Birds of Prey when the first ongoing. I was collecting comics for a fair few years, and I stopped collecting around about 2005, 2006, mostly because at that point a lot of the comics I was reading were just getting really trash. I was spending close to $100 worth of comics I just wasn't reading, and I think by that stage I'd already dropped Birds of Prey. But I collected up until I want to say at least issue 50. Probably wasn't that. I know it was one of the few milestones at least. I was collecting for a few years, and it was way before like Huntress joined the team. Blanking on the original writer, and that's kind of bugging me. But it was just Diana and Oracle, or Black Canary and Oracle. And in the early days, they had actually never met. It was all done electronically. It was very much the trope of the action hero and their tech support. The modern cinematic analogy I can think of is Mission Impossible with Ethan Hunt and Simon Pegg, because I've never watched those movies, so I don't know what his character's name is. So I have no real context for the Huntress run, and more specifically, I've never read this Gail Simone run. I really want to, but I just never got around to it. I might see if I can pick up some trades, or so I can borrow some, or just read them online somewhere. All that being said, you don't need any of that for this movie. Getting the context clues of knowing who, say, characters like Renee Montoya is, who eventually become the Question. Those are nice Easter eggs to have. I mean, Harley Quinn. Okay, I was one of those. I don't want to use the word detractor, but one of those people that was concerned that this was basically a Harley Quinn solo movie, and they just stapled on the Birds of Prey for no real reason. And this is literally Harley Quinn's movie. I don't necessarily see why they needed to brand this as a Birds of Prey movie. They could just call it the Fabulous Emancipation of Harley. The Fabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. It is a mouthful. But they could have just called this Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. That would have functioned as much as a title as anything else. Banking on Birds of Prey really didn't add much to them beyond the niche comic nerds. There's no there was that one TV series. I don't think anyone was begging for that. That feels like it has more of a connection to the comic books than this, from my perspective. But again, I've not read those other runs. However, it's a superhero comic book movie in the genre, just for classification, but this is not a superhero genre film. Not in the classical sense. This is probably my only major criticism of this movie, but it's hardly a criticism because I think it works. This is DC's Deadpool. I can't fault them for it. It makes perfect sense, and if you're going to have one character essentially make a Deadpool movie that's not Deadpool, Harley Quinn is the perfect candidate. Breaks the fourth wall, narrates half the film. There's a lot of time fuckery. But this isn't like Deadpool. Okay, one spoiler. One spoiler, this has the surrogate parent-child trope. That is pretty much prevalent in Deadpool 2. That being said, nothing else really fits Deadpool 2. It's not trying to be Deadpool 2. I mean, you could probably do a deep dive analysis between this Deadpool 2 and you will pick up the things that are similar. But what I love about this movie is that it does its own thing in its own way. It's not afraid to get ugly. This is a very brave film. The characters can have their emotional moments. I'm going to use the term protagonist and antagonist. The protagonist doesn't have to be a hero. You can have a villain as the antagonist. Megamind is one that probably everyone will come to mind, but you can have a villainous character be a protagonist. The protagonist is just the central focus of the story. The antagonist is the person that is in conflict with the protagonist. In this case, that is, if not essentially the entire Gotham, it is definitely Black Mask. Hammerly played brilliantly by Ewan McGregor. This is the kind of thing I was telling about in Robotnik. Jim Carrey overacted is his role. So when he was trying to be menacing, he just felt still like a fucking goofball, and because you just don't really see him as a credible threat. Ewan McGregor played this charming guy with this bit of a mean edge, and yeah, he was hamming it up at times, but when he was hamming it up is when he was being really fucking scary. When you feel that tension in the room just ratchet up to 1,000, and everyone's veins just go ice cold because they realize one false step and this motherfucker will murder them. I got that kind of same attempt at energy with Robotnik. It just didn't work. I'm actually going to buck the trend, because the movie I did last time, I did the bad stuff first and the good stuff afterwards, which I usually do when I have watched a bad movie. And even though that was a very average movie, I kind of want to get the good stuff out now and talk about the bad stuff. And this is a movie I like. I'm bucking my own trend here, which is kind of appropriate because I think this movie does tend to buck its own trends. But let's go into this. So, yeah, I think the acting was pretty spectacular. No, I don't think anyone really phoned it in. It's not really the best I've seen. It was pleasant enough. I think that could be because Margot Robbie kind of just dominated this film. She commanded the screen. She stole it. It's what is it? Can you steal your own show? I don't know, but she dominated this movie, and it was very much a cult of personality. But that's a kind of the point of this. Pretty much Ryan Reynolds did the same thing with Deadpool and that. I would say almost to a point where I think some of the Birds of Prey got a little bit lessened from it. But, this is a Harley Quinn film. This is one of the reasons, again, I think one of the reasons I still think that using the Birds of Prey as the title drop was probably a mistake. But, no, I'm talking good stuff. As a movie in and of itself, separate from the comic books, this is a spectacularly made film. The cinematography was really good. The action scenes I thought were really good as well. The modern action scene is just a lot of, quick cuts and shaky cam, and God, there was an action scene in Picard, which is basically straight out of a fucking Christopher Nolan film, and it just bored the fucking pants off me, because you couldn't keep track of anyone. But this one actually has some pretty good choreo, some pretty good scenes. I mean, as much as you're going to get for a multi-million-dollar Hollywood film. I did really enjoy this though. I thought it was very well paced, and it felt believable that none of these people had superpowers, but they could still kick ass. I mean, there's a particular moment in the in evidence room. The only issue I had with the evidence room is I was hoping for a few more Easter eggs. The moment when, fuck it, spoil this one. There's a moment when Harley is dodging bullets, and there's just this literal stack of cocaine, and there's bullets flying, punching into it, and there's just white dust everywhere, and you just know it's coming. And it's pretty much Deadpool with smoking the guns, but it's Harley Quinn and a questionable substance that was probably cocaine. So yeah, hopped up. But that's also the conceit of the superhero genre, is that these people actually have their own, essentially, they're not human. They don't They don't. Even a regular person with no superpowers is, stronger, able to take down more people. But this movie, is not just a raw strength battle. There's a lot of it is, martial arts. Canary particularly, her fighting style is very much leg work. You can spot it, and it's one of those things where they very much decide to give her a style. Harley's is one more of like an improv fighter. You don't really see much of Renee or Huntress's fighting has strongly, but they're more the brawler type. They're not exactly finessey martial arts. They're just gonna take you down. And I think that's actually probably a good point to lead into the thing that did kind of bug me. It's not a fault with the movie. I'm not sure I have really made that major criticism, but this is probably the big one. It's one of those problems that if you have prior knowledge, can be an issue. And if this person is one of your favorite characters in the comic book industry, it can also be an issue. But if you just take this as granted that this is its own independent project that doesn't have to conform to specifically the standards, because the fact that this is a Birds of Prey movie without Oracle / Batgirl / Barbara Gordon, yeah, you're going to throw us under the bus regardless. But Cassandra Cain is a character in name only. Cassandra Cain is, a teenage Asian girl. Those are similar, but that's similarities end. In the comic books, Cassandra Cain is a trained assassin who doesn't speak, who actually... I'm trying to remember what the conceit is. She's one of the world's best martial artists, and she can't speak because the language parts of her brain were programmed into essentially observing the language of body movements so she could be a better fighter. So she doesn't speak, but she kicks major ass. Second / first best number one fighter in the entire world in DC. And not even a metahuman, just purely martial arts badass. In this movie, she is a teenage thief with no fighting skills and can talk. And she basically is the one that holds the MacGuffin the movie is centered around. I'm not spoiling it. But she is essentially becomes the prize, the MacGuffin, the item that the drama and the tension is all centered around. So she has absolutely no real connection to the comic books beyond the name and the physical description. That's not to say she'll become a martial arts badass in the next movie, if there's going to be another movie, because it's made its budget. This is a system where you need to make 2 or 3 times your budget back to be considered worthy enough to get a sequel. The negative backlash about this movie is complete bullshit, I'll be honest. It's a bunch of fucking man-babies who've manufactured another bullshit cause because the big mean woman said nasty things and it fucking hurt my ego, and god damn, I wish these comic-getting assholes would just fucking go into an island with no fucking women, because that would make their lives so much easier, and just fucking die out. It's not like they like comics anyway, because they tend to shit on all of them. These assholes. I'm not going to name them. They know who they are. And I think that's what pisses me off the most, is that we need more like this. People always talk about how stale the genre is getting and all this other bullshit. They always talk about the Marvel's going to burn out. The Marvel's apparently going to be burning out since fucking Guardians of the Galaxy 1. The superhero fatigue syndrome. And when we get movies like this, which actually do a new inventive way of telling the superhero story, particularly telling it from the point of view of not just a villain, but a point of view of who's also essentially a sidekick to a villain and female-led. It also has a racially diverse cast. This also... Okay, look, if I'm going to criticize Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2016, I've got to criticize this. This is also a movie that has only one non-asshole character who's male. Every other male character is either a scumbag, a psychopath, or is happy to sell the characters out. There's only seemed to be one male character that doesn't do that. But whereas I think the difference between Ghostbusters 2016 and this movie, all the male characters in Ghostbusters 2016 were one note. They were all essentially either incompetent or an asshole. This one, there's reasons if I want to sound pedant. I don't know the best way to say it. But for example, the main bad guy, he's a well-developed character. He's also a complete prick. You get a sense of his motive. You get a sense of what he wants to accomplish. He has a character arc. He has a fully developed character in this. Black Mask is a guy you seriously want to be scared of. Whereas the guy in Ghostbusters 2016 was just a random dude who hated women Ghostbusters for some reason and then opened up the ghost and possessed Chris Hemsworth, and I don't even know what his fucking goal was, and he got no sense of the character. It was a caricature. It was not even a good character. I think that's the difference between the two. We got a great character here to say, yeah, there's a reason why you want this guy to be defeated. And his assistant sidekick number one is Zaz, who is in the comic books a 90s creation, and you kind of fucking, you get that. Just this thing just screams, look at the Edge Boy. He's a serial killer who cuts himself up when he murders someone, and he has appeared in Gotham, and he has a slight appearance in, I think, Batman Begins. But I think this is the first time he's probably played a major role like this in a property, and they really do well to just kind of, he's a bad guy, but they kind of slowly ramp up the creepiness of him, and it's brilliant. I shouldn't be talking about stuff. No, fuck it. Let's go back to the characters, because if we're going to talk about character book comparisons, okay. So who we got? We got Harley is essentially pretty much quintessential. Harley is pretty much the pun intended quintessential Harley. What we should have got in Suicide Squad. They've taken the one-note Harley we got in Suicide Squad and really made her own character, and that is gladly welcomed. If we just got Suicide Squad Harley again, this movie would have been pretty abysmal. They really did a stellar job writing this. And still tying it back to the... and how they tie it back to the original one is brilliant. It's almost that thing where they kind of acknowledge it existed, but kind of want to just back the fuck away. Who else we got? Black Canary. As I said, it's been a while since I've read any of these comics, but this character feels almost entirely disconnected from the Black Canary I know. I think there was a God, I think it might have been a Frank Miller reboot. I'm not too sure. I know there's a reboot where... So they've kept the fact that she's the daughter of a metahuman. She does have the canary cry, but in this one, she's basically deep embedded in the underworld, where it's Diana Lance in the comic books. Again, I'm probably misremembering, or at least I'm remembering more of a post-crisis up until the New 52 bullshit, and I never read I tried to read New 52, and New 52 was fucking awful. So I'm not sure if the modern day version has the same version of the origin. But this one, Diana is basically orphan who's involved with the criminal underground, and it's the change of heart, become the good guy kind of thing. I like the fact that they made Renee Montoya a more mature woman, someone who's been on the force for a while, and it's Rosie Perez, and I will always love seeing Rosie Perez in things because she is awesome. Kind of wish they hinted a bit more, maybe turning her into the Question, but that's probably for Birds of Prey 2. And this does have the sequel for Birds of Prey 2. Probably the least developed of the characters, mainly because her introduction as a character comes in so late, is Huntress. So she's probably the most one note of the lot, even though her character is a part of the movie throughout, and it's like a through line to say that she's been a part of this for a while. Her as a character is literally really not introduced until the third arc of the film, when the Birds of Prey finally get together. Yeah, this is an origin story. The Birds of Prey literally don't get together until right towards the end, and that's when we finally start to get a sense of who the character is. But it does pretty much hold to what I remember of Helena Bertinelli's character arc in the original comic books. I don't remember her being as lethal, But I know that was the vengeance arc and everything like that. I remember that being one of the big contentions between Batman and Huntress, is that she is wanting to use lethal force, or at least maybe not kill someone, but she'll definitely fucking shoot someone in the thigh and incapacitate them or something like that. And that was always a bone of contention. In fact, that's kind of how we got Batgirl Cassandra Cain, is because during when Gotham is destroyed with the earthquake, and well, at least crippled, Batman buggers off. Huntress takes over the identity of Batgirl as a way of still having the bat out there, but then that identity gets passed on to Cassandra Cain as well. So we do technically have two Batgirls in this, and no Batgirl. Batman is referenced. Bruce Wayne is specifically name dropped with Bruce the Hyena, and I'm not going to say any more on that. So yeah, if you expect to see something you've read in a comic book in this movie, you're not going to get that. To turn a negative into a positive, I like that. I'm not there going, I wouldn't mind the Easter eggs, I don't mind the nods. But if this was just a straight, we're just trying to make Birds of Prey, I'm not sure if it would have worked. At least not without maybe having a Batman movie with a Batgirl, so you could get something of that backstory in there. But this is the DCEU, so this is probably the best way they've done it so far. I like Shazam, but it still felt like a part of that. Even though they try to make this colourful thing, it still has this fucking murky grey palette that's throughout this movie. This movie has like colour and popping, and it's not like in Suicide Squad where it's just like, we filmed this dark gritty movie and we've got to try and colour it up. No, this feels like all the cinematography was part of the design, and I think that was phenomenal. This movie felt like a side story within that greater narrative. It name drops Gotham. It feels like it was a part of this universe, but it feels like a great side story. And for how much we see about how crime-ridden Gotham is, I think this actually works to say this is a part of this issue, but somebody's trying to deal with it. Anyway, I should wrap this up because I've been going for half an hour, because I tend to always talk long about movies I like. I would say this was actually probably a good palate cleanser after Sonic. I enjoyed Sonic, but it just didn't sit well with me. This one was phenomenally good. What would I give it out of 10? I don't know. I don't think it's a 10. I will say that. I don't get the sense of like how it came out of like some movies like, say, Jojo Rabbit and Knives Out, where I'm just like, this was a fucking just straight ace 10 movie. This was brilliant. This is one of the best movies I've ever seen. I don't think this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. I really enjoyed the hell out of it, but I just didn't think... I might give it an 8. Feels too low. And I think 9 feels too low, but also too high. That's probably... Actually, that might be the best... I hate... Yeah, sometimes this is the whole process. This is... 8.5. I'm giving a lot of halves out today, but that's just how it happens sometimes. 9, I think 9's a bit too high for this movie. It's a great film. It's not one of the best films I've ever watched. Not close. Would I watch this again? Yeah, I could watch this. I could watch this several times. It's a very damn entertaining film. It's not spectacularly good, but it's a damn entertaining film. 8.5 is, yeah. 8.5 feels right. It's not the best movie I've ever seen. It's probably not even the best superhero movie I've ever seen. Didn't hit me in the feels, but it did have me cackling a lot. I hope the same creative team gets another crack. I would like to see sequels, full stop. How they go ahead with this, given the box office, which is a shame. Honestly, it feels like a portrayal that Sonic is making more money than this. Would I recommend go and watch this? Yeah. I think movies like this deserve to have a bit more of a push behind them. I think there's something more worthwhile in this movie than I would say of Sonic. Does it need to be on the big screen? Yeah. Nothing really stands out this to be a big screen movie. But it's got some decent action. It's got some decent visual effects. There's a lot of practical stuff in this. It's not relying... Because it's also not relying on superpowers and such, it doesn't have to rely on a lot of that CG stuff. It's just pretty brutal. And they get to say fuck a lot. I don't recall them saying fuck a lot, but it's one of those movies where because if DC finally just went, you know what, we're going to make an R-rated fucking film. They chose the best way to do it. And as I said, this is DC's Deadpool. Do with that what you will. And I guess don't forget to click like, share, and subscribe. And I know, you guys don't. If you made it to the end of this, thank you. Do the shit down there. I think it's over there. I don't know when the next time I'm going to upload a video, but hopefully it'll be soon. Until next time.